Russian President Vladimir Putin declared 2024 a landmark year in Russia's military campaign against Ukraine, hailing accelerating advances and issuing yet another warning to Western nations about crossing Russia's red lines. Our next story takes a look at how Russia will intensify its offensive and the conflict will take a grim turn, raising questions about the future of Western support for Ukraine.
Russian forces are launching coordinated strikes on Ukraine. Russian missiles and drones are targeting deeper targets. Glide bombs launched from Russian fighter jets are demolishing the already fragile Ukrainian front lines. On the ground, Russian forces are marching ahead, forcing Ukrainians to retreat. Russia's defense ministry claims that its troops had seized a total of almost 4,500 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in this year, and were now gaining around 30 square kilometers a day. On the Eastern Front, in the Donbas regions, things look grim for Ukraine. In a display of military confidence, Russian President Vladimir Putin declares 2024 a watershed moment in Moscow's relentless offensive against Ukraine.
The outgoing year has become significant in achieving the goal of a special military operation. With the professionalism and courage of our soldiers, the heroic work of employees of defense enterprises and the truly nationwide support for the Army and Navy, Russian troops firmly hold a strategic initiative along the front lines. Only during this year, 189 settlements have been liberated. I would like to warmly thank our heroes.
The Russian president, addressing top military generals in an end-of-year meeting, accuses Western nations of pushing Russia to its red lines, a thinly veiled threat of escalation. Putin reveals that Kremlin is doubling down on military innovation, ramping up the mass production of missile systems, including hypersonic weapons like the Oreshnik missile that recently struck Dnipro. The technological edge is stark. Putin hints that Russian forces are now deploying AI-powered systems, signaling a new era of warfare that goes beyond traditional battlefield tactics. Russia's latest airstrike, the largest in nearly 3 months, further demonstrates its strategy. Many killed, widespread power blackouts, and a coordinated assault on civilian infrastructure reveals an approach designed to break Ukrainian morale. Ukraine claims that North Korean units fighting for Russia sustained losses of at least 30 soldiers killed or wounded around several villages on the front in Russia's Kursk region over the weekend.
Russians have begun to use soldiers from North Korea in assaults, a noticeable number of them. The Russians include them in combined units and use them in operations in the Kursk region. So far only there, but we have information that they may be used in other parts of the front line.
As Ukrainians endure devastating airstrikes, long power blackouts during a harsh winter, President Zelensky urges global unity against Russia's terror campaign. However, with Western support hanging in the balance and Russian forces gaining momentum, the path forward for Ukraine remains uncertain. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
John Erath is a Senior Policy Director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation, is now joining us from Washington, D.C. Mr. John Erath, welcome to the broadcast. Russian President Vladimir Putin keeps on warning the West against crossing the red line. Do you think the West will acknowledge his warning?
I think that Western countries do this every day. There has been a great deal of caution with the military assistance provided to Ukraine thus far, and a great deal of care taken not to cross the so-called red line, whatever they may be.
Mm-hmm. What do you make about Ukraine's plea that the Western nations need to arm Ukraine, they need to support Ukraine, even though it seems like Ukraine is weak on the battlefield?
The battlefield is in a state of attrition right now, where both sides are inflicting casualties on the other. Russia has taken a great deal of care to try to portray the situation as one that is favorable to Russia because they are gaining small amounts of territory, but at a very heavy cost. Casualty rate is simply not sustainable for Russia. They're so desperate they're turning to North Korean forces. Mm-hmm. So the Ukrainians' message is continue to spy us, and we can continue to inflict such casualties on the Russian forces.
Now that you've mentioned it continues to expire, what are the ramifications of that going forward?
I think that Putin senses an opportunity here with coming change in government in the United States. He's hoping that the incoming Trump administration will be stupid enough to try to solve the problem in one day, to try to force a premature peace on Ukraine and in conditions that would be favorable to Russia. Mm-hmm. The Russian demand will no doubt be maximal in the beginning in hopes that the American government will try to give Russia everything it wants to get an early peace.
All right, Mr. John Erath, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
You're welcome.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.